Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Clan Molder has borrowed from the arsenal of Clan Scryer as they'll be turning their sights towards the oncoming Norskins, as I'll be commanding the Vermintide and Crabling will be controlling Norsca. So for the Skaven army, we are going to have a little bit on the ranged department, as they are going to be bringing Ikit Zap Zap, the Arawar Warp Lightning Cannon, and these guys do have that Zap Zap ability, which gives a nice plus 10 seconds to that ability recharge. So that is going to be very helpful at keeping the caster and any of the characters who have some abilities, keeping them from using them when they exactly want to be popping those abilities off. And we also do have some Warp Grinders, giving some nice little bit of snares and a little bit of extra damage in an AoE. We have the Poison Wind Mortars, and we have a pair of the Poison Wind Globadiers as well, just to kind of thin out as much of the infantry coming their way as possible. And then for the Lords and Heroes, we do have a Plague Priest going to be rolling in with Vermintide and the Pestilent Birth, which is going to be given the Clan Rat and the Clan Plague Monk summons, in addition to the Plague Rash, the lore passive, giving minus 12 speed and minus 5 vigor as well. It's going to be slowing down the Norskins even more so. And then for the other hero, it is going to be an assassin coming in with Rival High Talisman and Assassin's Trophy. Again, just going to be trying to debuff the Norskins as much as possible. And Throt the Unclean is going to be riding forth atop his Brood Horror, as he is going to be bringing the Beast Pack with his Rat Ogre summons. He does have Remoldered as well, which is going to be able to heal himself up very nicely, and any other Clan Molder units like the Rat Ogres off in the distance, which is going to be the Pit Fighters of Hell's Deep. These guys are going to be the ROR of the Rat Ogres, as they do have the Berserk ability, so it is very much going to be like the Marauder Berserkers coming in from Norsca, as they do have that Berserk ability, which will be able to kind of up their strength more so as they are engaged in melee, with it eventually leading to them rampaging, but it will give them some nice boosts of plus 13 melee attack and 22% physical resist. On the fringes is going to be some wolf rats. We have some poison ones mixed in with the regular ones, so a little bit of magic damage, especially useful against any of the skin wolves that the Norskins may be bringing, because it will be able to bypass their physical resist. And the wolf rats with poison, just always helpful. Having that poison on them will allow them to trade a little bit better into the Norscan variants, even though these guys only have a very low base leadership. I mean, right now they're sitting at 39, but their base value is only 34, so a slight breeze is going to cause these guys to rout right off the field, so that you get kind of mindful with that. We have some clan rats in the back line, just with some spears, holding that against any of the Norscan mobility, and the front line is just going to be a bunch of Skaven slaves holding them back for those Poison Wind Globadiers, so they're not going to be doing any too much expensive friendly fire. Those Skaven slaves are expendable after all. For the Norscan side of things, we do have the Beasts of Tashnar on one front. They do have a bonus versus large and immune psychology as well with their frenzy, so they are going to be the ROR variant of the Norscan Warhounds, and on the other flank is going to be one of those regular ones. It actually is going to be up to triple silver chevrons, so it is going to be buffing up their leadership, their melee attack, and melee defense just a little bit to help them trade just a little bit better, especially when they are going to be outnumbered. We have Wolfric the Wanderer going to be striding forth on his mammoth, as he's going to be rolling in with Seafang. Looks like we have a Hunter of Champions as well as Fight or Die, going to be kind of given some more buffs for its own friendly units, and there is going to be quite the infantry rush, as we have plenty of Marauder Berserkers mixed in, one of which is actually going to be the Brutes of the Hound, and these guys are going to be unbreakable, so they are going to fight very down to the last man. And there's going to be plenty of Berserkers, though. The Berserkers have a nice high base leadership anyways, so they're going to be able to just kind of try and just mow through as much of the Skaven as possible. We do have 4 Marauder Hunters with Javelin as well, especially good against Throt, any of the Rat Ogres, but particularly against Plague Furnaces or like the Hell Pits, for example. These guys are going to be very helpful to deal with. And then we also have a Ephemeral Balefiend of Fire, going to be getting some spell casting off in the meantime with Arcane Conduit. We have Scroll of Power, which does actually have that minus 60 ability recharge, so pop that does help against Ikit Zap Zap. Of course, there is only one charge on those. We also have Scroll of Shielding, we have Burning Head, the Flaming Sword of Ruin with Cascading Fire Cloak, and Fireball with Kindle Flame as well, so a ton of spells coming in on that Ephemeral Balefiend, but that is going to be it for both sides. Both sides going to be getting plenty of shots in early, as that Fireball is going to be arcing its way right on forward, going to be landing in right down that line against the Poison Wind Mortars, going to be taking down one model and doing quite a bit of damage to the other one's. Actually going to be dropping 2 of them by the looks of it. as they are down to 7 now. Well, they are going to be charging on forward. There's going to be a little summon, though, of Clan Rats. Going to be slowing it down the approach, especially the Brutes of the Hound is going to be a very important one, as the raining fire from those poison wind mortars going to be raining down against those javelins, going to be weakening them as much as possible, get rid of as much of those range units, because there's not a whole lot other than the mobility, but they're going to have to get around all of these Norscan Warhounds. But that Femur Abilfian is taking a ton of fire early on, and we're going to be getting some more summons in that front line. Some Clan Rats just trying to slow down these Marauder Berserkers, as all of these Poison Wind Globadiers just going to be trying to whittle them down as much as they can. But units already starting to rout, as we're going to be getting a nice burning head right down that front line, going through these Skaven Slave Spears. Not going to be generating a whole lot of value, but that is going to open up a nice little hole in this Skaven formation, going to allow these Marauders to try and get onto these Poison Wind Globadiers, who are now retreating back behind more and more of their units, as looks like Hunter of Champions is going down on Throt the Unclean, reducing his armor, melee defense, and those javelins are doing a ton of damage to him. And it would be very unfortunate if the Skaven do lose their lord so early on. He has just taken so much damage. A hit from Wulfric the Wanderer. Assassin Trophy and Rival Hide is popped, though, on Wulfric, and Throt the Unclean is going to be routing off the field, as he does get a remolder off just before that happens, so he is going to be healing. So if he does get that healing up a little bit, he should be fine, be coming back to that field, as the Warp Grinder is going to be popping their Warp Quake and their Snare, going to be holding things back, allowing these Poison Wind Globadiers to get a little bit of distance, and going to be turning their attention into this nice little blob, because the Marauder Berserkers and the Marauders here going to be getting some nice value in here. But we do have the Beast of Tashnar on the fringes, looking to try and get in the back line. The Poison Wind Mortars as well going to be retreating, as the Norskins are pushing heavily into that back line, as Ikitsapsap is going to be able to finish off that Fimir Balefine, dropping it down. Shooting at it all match so far, finally able to bring it down just as those Berserkers, the Brutes of the Hound, get onto him. So well done for those Ikitsapsap. They have done their job, and now looks like we have Throt the Unclean coming back into the fight. He is nice and healthy, though he does take a massive hit from Wulfric the Wanderer. Throt the Unclean is able to do a nice bit of damage back to the big mammoth. But Wulfric going to continuing trying to get some more shots in, but Throt is going to be pulling out now, especially with those Marauder Javelins. Going to be getting some nice damage in. He is getting shaken once again, but he will be back and at it, as he is slowly regenerating throughout all of this. The Assassin as well going to be returning to the field, but plenty of the Skaven forces are in a little bit of a disarray, but the mobility is coming into that backline. The Pit Fighters and all of the the Wolf Rats are able to jump onto these Marauder Hunters with Javelins, getting a nice bit. A couple of them are already routing, while the other one is trying to finish off these Poison Wind Globadiers. One shot is able to arc its way out, as it does land amongst those javelins. Going to be providing that poison wind, and these Skaven Slave Spears going to be trying to shut these guys down, but it looks like they are going to be able to get enough shots off onto these Poison Wind Globadiers, and especially with all of these Beasts of Tashnar charging forth, these guys aren't going to be very long for this world. As we swing back into the main thing, we do have a nice little Sea Fang going to be going right through these Plague Monk summons, but it is just a summons. I think it would be much better to have gone against like these Clan Rats, as these Boots of the Hound fighting to the very last man, as all of the Wolf Rats are doing a nice job on the fringes, able to shatter these Marauders. And now Throt the Unclean back using his second remoldered, this time on himself, much like the last, going to be keeping him nice and healthy, and that should get him pretty much to his healing cap. And with Wulfric the Wanderer sitting fairly low, and especially these Pit Fighters of Hell's Deep doing very well on top of that, there is still plenty of Berserkers, though. These guys have plenty of health, and Wulfric the Wanderer, while he isn't exactly sitting nice and fresh, he still has 1500 in terms of total HP, but he is getting very low in terms of leadership, and he is going to be routing here with just the mass of Skaven infantry all just gathering around him. And there is plenty of like the Plague Monk summons, all of these units, and Throt the Unclean healing himself up, and it looks like Wulfric the Wanderer does fall to the onslaught of the Skaven. And with the Lord gone, the Norscan forces are going to be starting routing across the board. Plenty of their units aren't going to be lasting too much longer, especially with Throt diving in atop the Beast of Tashnar. Should be able to break these guys fairly quickly, especially with all the help of these Wolf Rats diving on in. Now he is going to be turning his attention to these Marauder Hunters with Javelin on the far flank, going to be dodging these shots as best he can, going to be able to get nice and clear from that first volley, and now he's going to be charging right on into the thick of things, and this should be just about it, as the Norskins are going to be routing from the field as army losses do kick in, and the Skaven are going to prevail against the Norscan rush. Only the Brutes of the Hound are going to be left fighting to the bitter last man. Only two of them left, but it is going to be all she wrote here, as the Norskins are running for the hills. The last of the units falling to the ground, and that will be that. So let's take a look at the after battle report here real quick and see just how things did shake out on both sides. So for the Norskins, being led by Crabling here, the Brutes, or the Beast of Tashnar, doing very well, getting 906 total value. The other unit, unfortunately, not as great. Just the mass of Wolf Rats was able to really put a major dent into their hides and causing them to run for the hills. As for all of the Javelins did well, I was going to say they did some decent work. One of them did very well, getting 1,100 in total, but the rest of them, only the one other unit was able to get almost its value, but the other two just got really depleted very, very quickly. All of the Berserkers not really able to get, even the just the regular Marauders were able to pay for themselves. And the Brutes of the Hound, though, doing very well, 1,400 in total value. Having that Unbreakable really did help them, as they just kind of pushed right on through the center ranks of the Skaven, getting into the Ikit Zapsop in the endgame. But unfortunately, it was not quick enough to save the Marauder, or the Fimir Balefiend, who only was able to generate 460 total value. Another one of the Berserkers was able to pay for itself, but unfortunately most of the infantry did not. For the Norskins, Wolfric the Wanderer was able to get some nice value in himself, 2,400 on him, able to do quite a bit of damage to Throt, especially with Hunter of Champions popped, reducing that armor melee defense, and especially with all the Javelin support. Almost able to finish him off, but Throt was able to get that remoldered off just before he did end up routing, which may have been a key factor in keeping him on the field, because he does have 95 speed, so he is kind of a threat if he does end up routing, kind of just running right off the field. As for the Skaven side of things, the Ikit Zapsap was able to generate 1,700, firing against that Fimir Balefiend all game long, able to finish it off and keep it from casting any of its potent magic, kind of keeping the favor a little bit into the Skaven side with that. As for the Pitfires of Hell's Deep, they were able to generate some nice value, as were these Wolf Rats with poison, and the only one was the regular Wolf Rats, which really wasn't able to generate a lot of value, but the other ones did rather well. The Poison Wind Mortars only getting 500, while both of the Poison Wind Globadiers able to get some okay value, but nothing too extraordinary. You can often see these guys generating like well over 1,000 damage value per unit, especially with that Poison Wind being so very potent, but most of that damage was being done with the mobility, and with like Ikit Zapsap doing very well. All of the rest of the units just not really doing all too much. The summons were very helpful, and even generating some nice value himself from just the damage value in melee, but those summons were very important to just keeping the Norskins fighting just plain old summons and just slowly dragging them down. Assassin getting some decent value, while Throt the Unclean unfortunately only getting 940, but just throwing more and more bodies at the Norskins proved to be enough to really kind of carry the day against the Norscan forces. And that is going to be all she wrote, as the Skaven are going to be triumphant in this battle. So without further ado, we are going to close things out. I do hope you all enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good one.